So, Jerry, can you walk us through some of the biggest factors that might impact the final price tag of a ductless system beyond just the equipment cost itself?
And quite frankly, that is a very open-ended question because no two ductless jobs are the same. This equipment is such wide variety nowadays versus when this originally came to us about 25, 30 years ago. We have everything from wall units to floor mount units, ceiling cassette units, and we even have full ducted systems now that we can adapt into an existing heating system. So, depending on the home, depending on the size of the home, depending on, what the customer's current infrastructure is like in the home, and quite frankly, what the customer wants to see in their home, that's going to really vary widely. So, it's many factors that this is really going to hinge on. And this is why we encourage all of our customers, have us come out to your home, do an evaluation. We're going to measure the home. We're going to do a manual J. We're going to talk to you about your wants, needs, and desires of the system. We'll go over budget with you to try to design something that's work around your budget. So, every system that we put in is a custom system that is designed around that specific home and homeowner's needs.
So things like you said, depending on the type of equipment that you're installing, that would be one factor. How complex that installation might be, and like how long the lines are that you have to install. If you're on a three-story building or something like that, and you have to have lines that go all the way up, to the attic, then that's going to be more expensive than just a Cape house that's just one floor, things like that, right?
Yeah, again, and it also just the size of the project. Are we talking about you just want to put a unit in for a sunroom to maybe get a little bit more time out of it throughout the season, or are we talking about you want to do a full house conversion to get that $10,000 rebate? Obviously, those two projects are going to or differ wildly. So really based on several factors, that's going to really change the total investment for the customer.
Talk a little bit more specifically about like the square footage and how that's a factor, and then the system design, like you said, where you might have just like a single zone, with like one outdoor unit, running a couple of indoor units or something like that, versus a multi-zone system where maybe you're doing every bedroom in the house and that sort of thing. And how do those factors influence the cost of a ductless installation?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that are gonna, we need to take into account when we size these systems and design these systems. We here do what's called a manual J. That's a heat gain, heat loss calculation. We don't do them on every job we install. We do it on every job that we quote, and that way we ensure that every time we're designing the proper system. And square footage alone doesn't tell the whole story. I've had a lot of customers tell me I have a 2,000 square foot house. How big of piece of equipment do I need? And I say, well, it's really going to matter because you can take two Cape style homes, turn one 90 degrees, give it a lot more exposure to the sun, and that's going to change what that load is for that home. You could have a house that was built in the 1970s, and then you could have something that's built to modern code now today. Obviously, the insulation, the weatherization, and the infiltration of the home, those homes are going to wild different or very differently as well. So, and then when it comes to design, again, that's really coming down to what the person's looking to do. Are we looking to just do one room? Are we looking to do whole house? Are we looking to do half the house? And so based on the customer's desires, we're going to design that around them and size it.
SEER ratings, SEER ratings, a factor in the long-term cost of a ductless system in terms of efficiency and the cost and reducing your energy bill. That the fact that these systems are more efficient than maybe some other types of heating and cooling systems, or and do certain manufacturers make equipment that's has more efficient than others, that sort of thing.
So there's SEER rating, but there's also HSPF, which is heating seasonal performance factor. That's your heating efficiency. There's also EER, and last but not least, which is quite frankly I consider the most important rating, is your COP. That's your coefficient of performance. Um, when it comes to manufacturers, we're all relatively close in our efficiencies. We use LG products. What I will tell you is LG has probably one of the most robust lines that qualifies for the Mass Save program, and they actually look at a heating ratio. So they've actually got even different things that they're looking for to qualify for the Mass Save program.
How do climate and regional factors affect ductless pricing, such as here in Massachusetts and on Cape Cod specifically?
Cape is a relatively unique area. We tend to stay a little bit warmer in the wintertime. We're surrounded by the water. The average winter, we're above 40 degrees. We were just, here it is mid or end of January. We were just 50 degrees yesterday. We're about 40 degrees today. But this past weekend, we were 15 degrees. So, that can obviously factor into it. Code here on Cape is to size to 17 degrees design temperature outside. We actually size down to 0. We mostly do that because we will reach those temperatures. Quite frankly, last year we got into the about negative 15 degrees here on Cape. It was historic for us. But we didn't have one heat pump customer call us and say their house wasn't nice and warm. So really, obviously, the sizing is going to be a big factor. Cape Cod is a high cost of living down here, so labor is definitely hard to come by here. We got a relatively small pool of workers down here. The average age in Brewster, I just read an article the other day. I think it was somewhere around 50% of the population was above 45 years old. So, we do skew much older here. And with the cost of living, the younger generation that's going to be working in the trades, it can be relatively hard for them to find housing here.
Can a homeowner install a ductless heating and cooling system on their own, to save money? I mean, what would be the potential risks and hidden costs associated with going the DIY route?
So the DIY route is definitely gaining in popularity. Quite frankly, it's actually illegal because you need a license to handle refrigerant and equipment that contains refrigerant. Not sure how these various manufacturers are getting around that, but they are. And certainly would obviously not encourage you to do it. Refrigerant can be very dangerous. It can burn you, and it can burn you really badly if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. There's also proper practices and procedures for putting this equipment in. Pressure testing, 550 psi, letting it sit, make sure that it holds nice and tight. We use Zoom lock tools. That's going to ensure that we have good connections between all of our equipment. And then properly vacuuming the system down. We do what's called triple vacuum. So we vac it down into a good vacuum, add dry nitrogen back into the system, vac it down again to a good vacuum, and then 1/3 time add dry nitrogen. So that way we ensure that we get a good, clean refrigerant systems, because that is absolutely critical with these systems, because that's what's heating and cooling your home is the refrigerant. So if our refrigerant system is compromised, the whole system is going to be compromised.
Would going the DIY route also affect your warranty on the equipment that you purchase?
Yeah, most of these manufacturers, they're able to track down with their serial number where the equipment went. And if they find out that it was sold through the internet, they will not warranty that equipment.